Happy Monday. Welcome to another episode of Brain Scratch, Case Cracked. I'm your host, John Lorden. Thank you so much for stopping by today. So today's episode was suggested by John Arnhart, and if that last name sounds familiar, you're a good little internet sleuth. That is the husband of Christy Arnhart, who of course researches and writes these episodes. Looks like she's bringing the family into the business. Big thank you to John and Christy for their work on today's case. This is one that I like to call the CSI knockoff. Palm Beach Gardens is a city in Palm Beach County, Florida, with a population around 48,500. This city houses a number of gated communities, along with a retail center that includes PGA Commons, Midtown, Legacy Place, and downtown at the Gardens. There are also 12 golf courses within the city limits, and it's previously hosted the Honda Classic. The Professional Golfers Association of America, the PGA, actually has its headquarters in the city, so as you can imagine, this area draws avid golfers and retirees, and it was golfing that attracted Alan to the area. After running a family-owned flooring business for most of his life, 71-year-old Alan had moved to the area when his first marriage ended. He relocated to Palm Beach Gardens to not only spend time with his new wife and family, but to enjoy his favorite pastime of golfing. On January 25, 2018, at 5:42 a.m., security cameras show Alan left his house wearing shorts, a royal blue sweatshirt, and a ball cap. It had become his routine to take a short walk in the mornings to a local shopping center where he met a friend for coffee. However, on this morning, he wouldn't make it to that local Starbucks. Within minutes, he reached the gated community's north entrance, and at 5:53 a.m., he walked out of the security camera's sight. He was carrying something dark in his left hand, but what exactly it was just couldn't be determined. 37 minutes later, a single gunshot can be heard on the video. At 7 a.m., a man walking his two dogs discovered Alan lying lifeless near a sidewalk by the intersection of PGA and Central Boulevards. Investigators discovered that a single bullet had pierced his chest at his heart, but they discovered little else. There was no weapon, no shell casing, no signs of struggle. His phone and his wallet were still with him. His index finger on his left hand was extended, and detectives noticed one particular detail that they just couldn't explain. There was a very thin line of blood running from his heart to his shoulder. The thought of someone being killed in the area had many residents worried. Palm Beach Gardens is surrounded by affluent neighborhoods with very little crime and even fewer murders. Alan's would be the first homicide of the year. With no witnesses at the scene, investigators turned to local community for tips. They offered a $3,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. However, no one was coming forward. Some members of Alan's family from his first marriage were questioned, and investigators considered his daughter a person of interest. She and her father had been estranged for many years after he remarried. She felt that he cared more for his stepchildren than he did for her, and this led to animosity on both sides. Despite looking into her and other family members, nothing was panning out. Even his wife and stepchildren were considered suspects. The only thing his wife could offer investigators was several guns that were owned by Alan and that he kept in a bag that was also filled with ammunition. They seemed to have a happy marriage. To investigators, he didn't seem like a man with enemies. With no tips and their suspect pool dwindling, investigators decided to look at the victim himself. Alan was known for his extraordinary smile and contagious laughter. His friends and family say he touched the lives of everyone he encountered, waking up each morning with a big smile on his face. Wherever Alan was, he made it a happy hour, they said. But as investigators dug deeper, they began to realize that the face Alan presented to people was not his true face. By the 1st of February, investigators had found that Alan had depleted his retirement account and made large payments into his life insurance account. Was he trying to ensure financial stability for his family after he was gone? One detective had begun to theorize that they were not dealing with a homicide, and he cited Alan's shirt as a clear indication. The line of blood from the entry wound on Alan's sweatshirt stretched toward his upper left shoulder, indicating that something with the approximate width of a string had dragged through the blood. Detectives would spend the next month and a half investigating, and by mid-March had changed their investigation from homicide to self-inflicted. Within 6 months, details would emerge that would change everyone's opinion on this case. On Alan's computer, investigators found receipts and emails for weather balloons, helium tanks, and rubber bands. Searches on his phone revealed that he had researched methods for taking his own life. He asked questions such as, can life insurance companies deny payment for self-inflicted deaths? Further investigation showed that dating as far back as 2009, he had used Google to search how to die by gun, hanging, drugs, and poison. He had also researched how quickly victims die from these methods. With all this evidence in hand, it was becoming obvious that Alan had ended his own life. But how? Returning to the crime scene, just 40 yards from where Alan had been found, investigators found pieces of white string tied with knots, along with colored rubber bands. Investigators also found a small pair of silver scissors close to where Alan's body was found. Going back to his house, they found the same string and rubber bands in a drawer in his home. But one piece of evidence would push the investigation towards its conclusion. As investigators used the internet to try and make sense of the items they had found, they came across a 2003 episode of the television show CSI Las Vegas, in which a person used a gun tied to a weather balloon to make a self-inflicted gunshot wound appear to be murder. They also found a real-life 2008 New Mexico death in which the subject, a restaurant chain executive, tried unsuccessfully to copy the CSI plot. The balloon popped too early and the weapon was found nearby. In October of 2017, Alan bought a 350-gram weather balloon from a store in Tampa, Florida. On Christmas Day, he purchased a second one that was 600 grams along with helium tanks. The last searches of Alan's electronics showed that he emailed the balloon seller to ask how much weight the balloons could hold. With an 800-gram load, what would the burst altitude be? Thank you, Alan. Investigators now had a working theory, even if it seemed far-fetched. Weather conditions for the day of Alan's death suggest that a weather balloon would have ascended approximately 19 miles before exploding somewhere north of the Bahamas. It would have landed in open water and had very little chance of being found. The open field where his body was found was also considered optimal for a weather balloon launch. Alan had simply stood in the field, shot himself in the chest, and allowed the gun to be carried out to sea by a weather balloon. His wife was distraught after the news of his death. Even though the two had both previously been married, she asserted that her husband was her soulmate and that he would always be there to take care of her. At least that's what he told her. The last time his estranged daughter saw her father was 2 years before his death. The two met in New York for dinner. "Are you happy?" he asked her at the end of their evening. Rather than answer, she asked him the same question back. "Oh, very much so," he said. "We drink every night. It's one big party." He talked excitedly about his golf cart and his swimming pool. The police reports showed that 3 days after their dinner, Alan typed undetectable methods of death into his phone. When discussing her childhood, Alan's daughter described her father as withdrawn and distant. She stated in an article for the New York Times that, quote, "He went to work, then came home for food and stared at the television. I thought it was us. I thought we were not enough for him. And now I think he must have been depressed." Case cracked. If you are struggling with depression and or thoughts of ending your own life, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Of course, I'll also have that number in the comments down below. You don't need to go through this on your own. There are people that can help you. And if you're not in the U.S., please look for those resources. They're out there. Thank you to the Palm Beach Post, CBS News, the Sun Sentinel, the Washington Post, the Daily Mail, crimeonline.com, Wikipedia, the New York Times, legacy.com, and CNN for information contributing to this story. Really tough one. This is one of those stories that it breaks your heart to hear what someone is going through to put themselves in that situation. But there's this aspect to it where, you wonder about, how much thought and planning had to go into this, and couldn't that research, couldn't that thought and planning have gone into a different direction, like I was talking about here, finding resources that could help you. If you're not happy, really looking at your life, trying to change the things that you're struggling with. And I know it's not that simple for a lot of people, but it just seems to me that there was so much effort put into this direction that maybe if that effort just would have been pointed in a different direction, we wouldn't be talking about this case today. And there's a few kind of unanswered questions in this. So I did a lot of research into the balloon. The 350 gram and 600 gram number, that is essentially what the payload should be for that balloon, or how much weight that could carry. And one of the big questions I have here is, he obviously didn't blow up the balloon at his house and go walking down the street with it, because it would have been found on the security camera footage. So he had to take the tank with him. And I did find some stats on the tank. The tank would have been what's known as a 44-pound or a 40 cubic foot of helium tank, and it would weigh 44 pounds. It would measure about 10 inches by 10 inches by 20 inches. So not giant. You probably could fit it in a bag, and I do think that might be the black object that they saw in the security camera footage. That much helium, if you were going to use all that helium, could lift about 2.75 pounds. So obviously, if the tank's 44 pounds and the helium, when it's in a balloon, can only lift less than 3, the tank didn't go up with the gun. The tank has to be somewhere else, and I'm kind of surprised that we don't know where. So it seems like he used a 600 gram weather balloon, which was a second balloon. That would be rated to carry about 1.3 pounds, but it would also be 12 to 16 feet in diameter. Very large object. I think the timing of this, doing it very early in the morning, might have helped that launch happen without it really being noticed. But in terms of finding an answer for where the tank is, the best thing I could find is over at the Washington Post. They state, quote, "The workers who dredge the many water hazards of Palm Beach Gardens for sunken golf balls have been advised to keep an eye out for a helium tank." So essentially, law enforcement has put the word out, anyone that works in those areas. And it's not a bad thought. The water hazards on the golf courses, very quick and easy place to dispose of something like that. So it could be that the tank is found at a later point and just that information never comes out through the press. There is another interesting aspect here, which is the scissors. I don't really understand what the scissors could have been used for. The rubber bands, it's strange to me that you would get too complex with a mechanism like this. I think you could just do it with string, so I'm kind of curious what the rubber bands did as well. And then the big question of the shell casing. Where the heck is the shell casing? Once again, just the level of thought that went into this. I have to think that he made some type of mechanism that caught the shell casing, or that kept it with the gun for the gun to float off. It's really terrible to me that this man couldn't have kind of redirected that energy. But I get it. I know it's depression can be a very, very nasty beast, and you're kind of fighting yourself. As smart as you are, there's another part of you that is, in some cases, working against that, and that could be really, really tough. Before I end today's video, I want to thank new patrons Ariel Mama, I think it's Maha, but it might be Maja. Thank you so much. And Barbara Smith. We also had pledges increased by Laura Rice and Bella Berenice. If you would like to support the channel, you can do that at www.lordenarts.com. You can join Patreon, you can use PayPal, you can buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here doing what I love doing, spending time with all of you and helping all the families that we do on this channel. Take care, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful Monday. I'll see you back here on Wednesday with a brand new episode of Searchlight on the Lorden Arts channel.